Hi guys, Karen here, and Happy New Year to you all. I hope you've all had a wonderful Christmas and are ready to start the new year with some new layouts. I'm still scrapping to Christmas, and I probably will be for a little while, but I didn't really know how to start this layout. So I had this new Christmas tree stamp I've had for a couple of weeks, and I thought I'd start off by perhaps just embossing a few Christmas trees. The first one didn't go terribly well, as you'll see in a moment. But I did manage to get a few done. So I just put the embossing powder on, and as you can see, I've got a great big gap in the middle. So I rubbed off the embossing powder that I'd put on there, but just because I might as well save it because I'm not going to use it. And then I started again with the next tree along. I've got a couple of different trees on this stamp set, and I've used some gold embossing powder, some gold glitter embossing powder, and some silver. And actually, after I've finished with doing these, I also do some light blue trees as well. So I'm just using my heating tool to create the embossed effect, which I think I still find it's like magic. It's like alchemy, just watching it all change and go shiny from the matte powder that you start with. And as you can see, a couple of them didn't go so well, but I managed to get 5 out of these, and then I'm cutting them out. I'm going to cut all of them out, and there we are, and there's the 2 blue ones as well. So I'm not going to use all of them. I just thought I'd fill the page and do a few and see where I went with it. And I thought I'd cut this a piece of this. It's called Christmas Lights, this paper, and it's by what they call Pigfresh Studios. So I'm just going to cut along the little string of lights there to use at the top of the page. And the backing page I'm using, the backing paper I'm using, is from the Sweater Weather collection, and that is called Close Knit. And it's like a string of lights on the page, and I thought that was rather nice for the layout I'm doing, which is a picture of my daughter having a look at the presents under the tree. She's just having a look there and having a bit of a poke. So I've actually called the layout No Peeking, which is what I don't think she's actually going to try and peek, but you never know. So I just wanted to do a few border punch strips. I've got this scallop punch that I really like. I use it a lot by Tonic Studios, and I'm just going to do a strip of this red. All the papers I've used for the border strips, they've all got to show as a solid colour, really, because against the white background, if they've got a white background themselves, then they won't show up. So now I'm using this paper, which is white words on a black background. I can't remember. I think it's probably from Sweater Weather as well, but I can't remember which paper this is. So I'm just doing this as a second scallop border punch, and I've just used that branding strip. The diagonal stripe is a branding strip that I took off one of the other papers. That I thought that would work as quite a nice base to sit my photograph on. And now I've got this lovely tissue paper. I've just had that in my stash for a while, and I thought I'd use that as a background, but against the photo I felt it needed another colour between the two, so I'm just using a bit of this green plaid. This one is from Crate Paper's Fa La La collection, and it's called Together, and it's a lovely green colour which matches the colour of the tree, so I thought that made a nice, just a narrow mat for the photograph, and it just breaks up puts a little bit of colour between the photo and the tissue paper. So I'm just going to stick the photo to the tissue paper, but first I'm going to stick it to itself. I always like to do 2 layers of tissue paper just to give it a bit more depth, and just trim that down. So it doesn't need to show very much, just poking out from behind the photo. And then against the white, again, because it's got a white background on the tissue, I'm going to add another layer of colour before I attach to the background, and another narrow mat, this time with some red tissue, a lovely Christmassy red. And I'm just going to put a little narrow mat of that just to show up the the floral tissue paper a bit more. So there you go. With the red behind it, it looks prettier. So that's my layers done, and then I'm going to just layer up the border strips underneath the photo, so it gives it something to sit on. So it's not floating in the middle of the page too much. Not that I worry about that unduly. If I want to stick a photo in the middle of the page and just surround it with stuff, then I will. I'm not too worried about if it isn't anchored, but I am going to need somewhere for the trees to sit as well. So I thought having that across the page would give it a nice base to sit everything on. So once I've put the photograph on, then I'm going to have the trees around it. So I wasn't sure whether to sit it right on the top of the layers, on top of the strips, or halfway down, and I've decided to go for halfway down. And then I thought I needed one more border strip, so I'm using another piece of paper from the Fa La La collection. This has got the little pink Christmas trees on, and I'm not sure what it's called, but it's quite pretty with the little trees, and it's just got a little row of trees in the scallops there, so I thought that worked out quite well. So that's my final layer of border strips, and I'm just trying to decide where to put the foam so that it sits. The foam bit will sit just above where the stripy strip is, so that it just sits there, and the bit of tree sticks out over the raised layers of border strips. Now I'm just going to stick down this piece of paper from this Pinkfresh Studio paper with the lights. I just thought that made quite a nice top above the photo. I just quite liked how that looks on there. There's another string of lights. It's sort of tiny lights in the background, and then a bigger string of lights at the top there. And now I've got my gold trees. I'm just using the gold trees either side of the photo. And I'm just going to stick this down. I didn't really want to remove it and then not remember where I'd put it, so I thought I'd stick it in place where it sits. Hopefully I've got it straight. I'm not very good at getting things straight, and I don't really worry about it too much. I have got a T-square, but I hardly ever use it. So I've now stuck the photo down, and that piece of red, that little skull, is the bit that falls off when you do the scallop border strip. That was the bit that fell off, and I thought actually that looks quite nice right at the top there as a just to finish off the top of the page. It just gives it a nice little border at the top there. I thought that would look rather nice, and it's nice to use up a piece that would have been just thrown away otherwise. Just getting it straight is quite tricky. I think I've got it on now. And I'm going to have a look through the ephemera. I've got the Hip Kit exclusive ephemera. These are all papers from my November Hip Kit. I may not have mentioned that. And these are the ephemera. I've put together last year's ephemera from the Hip Kit from the same time of year, and this year. So we had an exclusive pack both years, and I'm picking out all the presents and parcels. I picked out a few other bits which I won't use, but I put a load of presents around the trees that I've stuck, the little gold trees. So I picked out the ones that are already in the ephemera pack, and now there was some on some paper that was covered in presents, and that is called, one moment, I'll just go and I'll look it up. I'm terrible at remembering what papers are called. This has got the cut aparts on one side and a bunch of little presents on the other, and it's called 'Tis the Season, that paper from Pinkfresh Studio. So I've cut out some of the parcels, and I'm mixing them up with the ones that were in the ephemera pack. I'm just laying them out roughly to see how they look, and I like that. I think it echoes what's in the photograph, carries it on to the side, trees and presents. And now I want to stick the trees down and tuck them in either side of the photo. So that's the one on that side. That's the sparkly one. I don't know how clear it is to see, but that one was done with it's called gold tinsel. The embossing powder is gold tinsel, and then the other two trees are just from a matte gold. So that one I'm going to lift up on a piece of foam, so it's just a little bit raised next to the other one, and then I can tuck things under it, little parcels and things under it. There we are. I'm just putting them back to where they were, see if I'm happy with them, and I'm going to start sticking them down. Yep, here we go. I'm just going to start sticking them down and tucking them in, mixing up the ones from that I've cut out and the ones that are in the little ephemera pack. And I'm just realising as I've put the tape runner on that one, I've realised that I've got a load of puffy stickers from Pink Freshers in the kit, and there's bound to be some parcels in there, and sure enough there are. So I'm going to mix in between the cardstock ones, I'm going to mix in some puffy presents as well. Bit of variety of texture. And just one more I'm going to tuck in just down at the front there. Tuck him in underneath. So there's a couple of puffy ones in amongst the ephemera. And now working on the other side. Just tucking them in. Just so they're scattered around, like they would be under the real tree. Just picking out another puffy one. I really enjoyed doing this layout. It didn't take me very long, and it was after I got going finally, having done my trees. I thought I'd lost my mojo, and it's not the most complicated layout, but I did really have a lot of fun doing it, and I'm really pleased how it turned out. I like using some of my tools, some of my punches, and I'm just tucking in a few phrases. There's one that says presents under the tree, and then I'm just going to stick another one in. Oh, I think I'm just having a quick slurp of tea. Yeah, that one says our pretty tree, so it's appropriate. And then the final one is just saying sparkle and twinkle and shine, not sparkle, twinkle and shine, which is what was going on the tree. And there's definitely a sparkly tree there, and our tree was quite sparkly. And I've picked out this piece as well when I was going through the ephemera, and it just says twinkle bright, and I just liked it, and I just thought I'll see how it looks there, and I liked it there, so I'm just going to tuck it under that little bit of the border, because I thought it looked quite cool, quite cute there. And now I'm going to work on my title. It's not a complicated title, it just says no peeking, as I mentioned earlier. And these are the exclusive, I think they're not puffy, I suppose they're like puffy letters, gold puffy letters. They're really lovely letters and a lovely font with all that, very cursive and really pretty. And I've just put the peeking part onto a piece of wax paper so I can work out where I want it to go, because I didn't want to cover up that cute little bird that's sitting on the string of light. So I had to work out where the G was going to go, so it's a bit skew-if there. And when I finish just laying them on, although they are adhesive, off camera I will actually stick them down again using some glue to make sure they stay there, and I will straighten up that G a little bit and just rearrange it. But I wanted the K to just poke up in front of the nose, so that it kind of sits, so the nose sits within the word, if you see what I mean, so it looks like it goes together. I'm just going to put the dot on the I and then an exclamation mark at the end, just to, it's like a command. No peeking, Hannah. There we are. It's all stuck down. You see the G is slightly, I just rearranged them slightly so it looks a little straighter. And now the final thing I'm doing now is I've got a little tag there that was also in the ephemera pack, and I'm putting on some baker's twine, some red and white baker's twine, and I'm just going to write on there the year. It was 2009, and I've got a gold sparkly pen. It's almost down to the last of the ink. You can hardly see there's hardly any ink left, but I really love that pen. I've used it so much. So it's gold with a little bit of glitter in it. It looks lovely. And I'm just going to staple that next to that tree, so it's amongst the parcels. And that's it done. So I've really enjoyed getting back into my scrapping. I haven't done any for a couple of weeks over Christmas, as many people I'm sure have trouble fitting it in, as I do. But it's great fun to get back into it. So thank you for joining me, and do join me again soon. Goodbye.